Hello everyone and welcome to my Y&R Insider 24 update channel. Victor sends Jill reeling while Jack cuts the cane. The Young and the Restless, Y&R, spoilers for Wednesday, October 8th suggest that Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, astonishes Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, while Peter Bergman, Jack Abbott, presses Billy Flynn, citizen Kane Ashby, to the limit. When Jill gets back to town, one of the first things she does is argue with Melody Thomas Scott's Nikki Newman about Kane. Victor walked in on this and found out that Nikki asked Jill to team up with them to stop the cocky bogle from taking over all of Genoa City. Victor intervened to reassure Jill that he would persuade her otherwise, despite Jill's misgivings about Nikki's overreaction. Jill protests too much. Will he be able to break through Jill's barriers surrounding Kane? She is a smart businesswoman who also has a soft spot for the son of her ex. Victor has his work cut out for him. Jack, on the other hand, needs to exert some pressure of his own. He and Victor have agreed to work together to defeat Kane, but both sides have a right to be skeptical. The men must exercise caution however they decide to accomplish their objective of neutralizing Kane. These days, Kane is a loose cannon who can change his mind at will. However, since they were once friends, Jack may be able to convince Victor to let him lead Kane. Nikki requires responses. Nikki is still working hard to help her family overthrow the bogle. Is she correct when she says that Jill is the key to changing Kane? Kane has a lot of enemies, including the formidable Newmans, who oppose him, but he intends to use AI to become the puppet master in GC. The spoilers for The Young and the Restless remind us that Nikki and Kane, the man who held her son captive on his very own fantasy island, are still in love. What comes next in Wisconsin's Genoa City? Tell us Y&R fans, do you think that Nikki will tap into Jill's motherly side and play on her feelings for Kane? Does Jill even know what poor Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, was subjected to by Kane in Nice? Catch up on everything that's going on with The Young and the Restless right now by watching it all again. Stay tuned for the most recent Y&R news, spoilers, and updates. Comfortably settle in and gain access to the best soap information available online. Victor sends Jill reeling after Jack nips the cane. Spoilers for Wednesday, October 8th, 2025 in The Young and the Restless, Y&R, hint at a day that could reshape Genoa City's power landscape. As alliances are tested, hearts manipulated, and old rivalries reignited, viewers can expect nothing short of explosive tension. Victor Newman, Eric Braeden, surprises Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, completely in this midweek showdown with a revelation that could shake the foundations of her business empire. Meanwhile, Peter Bergman's Jack Abbott confronts Billy Flynn's Kane Ashby in a verbal chess match in which every word feels like a weapon. Behind it all, Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, continues her relentless campaign to keep the dangerous mogul from tightening his grip on Genoa City. Despite the fact that the battlefield is corporate, the emotional stakes are personal, and every move matters. Jill's return and the brewing storm. With flair, self-assurance, and a dash of chaos, Jill Abbott returns to Genoa City in the only way she knows how. She enters society sporting her signature smirk, prepared to reclaim her throne from Chancellor Winters and demonstrate to the city that she is still a formidable adversary. She doesn't anticipate, however, being drawn into yet another Newman conflict right away. Nikki Newman, ever the matriarch and strategist, corners Jill almost as soon as she steps off the elevator. The topic: Kane Ashby, the man whose ambition has spiraled out of control. Nikki is of the opinion that Kane's most recent endeavor, an AI-driven power play with the goal of concentrating power over Genoa City's businesses, is a ticking time bomb. She warns Jill that if they don't act soon, Kane will own not only their companies but the very people who run them. But Jill, who has a complicated history with Kane, the son of her late ex-husband, Colin Atkinson, doesn't appreciate being told what to do. She has protective and defiant instincts. She stands up for Kane and dismisses Nikki's concern as yet another Newman overreaction. Jill insists, he's not a monster, Nikki. He is simply ambitious. And you, of all people, ought to be aware of how that appears. Then enters Victor Newman, as only Victor can, calm, commanding, and armed with information Jill doesn't have. Victor's amazing action. The moment Victor steps into the room, the dynamic shifts. His quiet power silences the air. He greets them with his signature gravitas, ladies, adding, I couldn't help overhearing. Since Victor never enters a room without knowing what is going on there, of course he could. Jill's expression hardens. She knows that whenever Victor uses that measured tone, something monumental is about to drop. Victor informs Jill that Nikki is not exaggerating because Kane has already begun purchasing controlling interests through fake companies, some of which are even in Jill's portfolio. Her eyes widen in disbelief. That's impossible, she protests. But Victor, ever the strategist, slides a manila folder across the table. Digital trails, signatures, and documents all point to Kane's subtle manipulation inside. The look on Jill's face says it all. She can't speak for the first time in years. Victor does not gloat because he is not required to. Instead, he sits back and remains silent, allowing Jill to process her realization. When he finally speaks, his voice is low but cutting. You've always been a brilliant businesswoman, Jill. Don't let sentiment cloud your judgment. Kane is not the boy you used to protect, rather, he is the man who is now playing you. The words came crashing down like thunder. Jill's internal dispute later, in her suite at the Grand Phoenix, Jill pours herself a drink, neat, no ice. She's replaying Victor's words in her mind, each one echoing with uncomfortable truth. Deep down, she knows Victor might be right. Jill's relationship with Kane has always been tangled. She saw in him a wounded man trying to rebuild, a person who could be saved or destroyed. She admired his persistence, even when it bordered on recklessness. But lately, his decisions have worried her, the mysterious investors, the aggressive takeovers, and that haunting glint in his eyes when he talks about owning Genoa City. Was she blind to what he's become? The thought unsettles her. Jill takes great pride in her ability to see through men's schemes, having fought off Tucker McCall, Colin Atkinson, and numerous others. But Kane is different. His family by choice, not blood. And loyalty, for Jill Abbott, is both a weapon and a weakness. Her phone buzzes. Jack Abbott sent this message, need to talk. Urgent. Regarding Kane she sighs. Trouble is already here when Victor and Jack both call about the same individual. The master negotiator, Jack Abbott is pondering his next move as he walks around his office at Jabot. He's agreed to a temporary truce with Victor to handle the Kane problem, but alliances between Newmans and Abbotts are always delicate, and history has proven how quickly they crumble. Nonetheless, Jack is aware that this is now more about survival than family rivalries. Kane's AI empire's newfound power threatens corporate dominance as well as information control itself. Using digital manipulation, data leaks, and algorithms, he is rewriting the way business is done in Genoa City. Jack can't let that stand. So when Kane walks into his office, all charm and arrogance, Jack doesn't waste time on pleasantries. He begins, Kane, I'll cut right to it. No matter what game you're playing, it's over now. Leaning back in his chair, Kane grins. Game? Jack, I'm just evolving. You might want to give it a shot sometime. It's the kind of jab that would rile most men, but Jack doesn't flinch. Instead, he circles Kane like a chess master studying his opponent. Jack responds, evolving doesn't mean destroying everything that made this town. You believe AI gives you power, but it only isolates you. Kane's eyes flash with irritation. I'm not isolated, Jack. I can't be stopped. And there it is, the arrogance that confirms Jack's worst fear. Kane isn't just drunk on power, he's convinced he's untouchable. Jack leans forward, lowering his voice. You know, Kane, there was a time when I saw you as a friend. But lately, I don't recognize the man sitting across from me. You're playing a dangerous game, one that even Victor Newman can't control. And if you think he won't turn on you the second you become a liability, you're fooling yourself. Kane chuckles, but there's a flicker of unease in his expression. You and Victor working together? Now that's a headline. Jack's voice gets harder. A truce is not the same as trust. We both want the same thing, to make sure you don't burn this city to the ground. Kane stands, straightening his suit jacket. Then you'd better bring more than warnings, Jack. Because I'm just getting started. As he leaves, Jack stares after him, realizing that the battle lines have officially been drawn. The Calm in the Storm by Nikki Newman. Nikki Newman gradually emerges as the hushed force that holds everything together as Victor conducts behind-the-scenes maneuvering and Jack honed his strategy. She's no stranger to chaos. She's lived through decades of Newman drama, corporate wars, and personal loss. But what sets Nikki apart is her instinct for when to push and when to persuade. She also knows that Jill Abbott is the only way to stop Kane right now. Nikki has a private meeting with Jill at Crimson Lights. This time, the tone is more sincere rather than confrontational. "Jill," she says softly, "I know you care about him. So do I, in a way." But Kane's not thinking clearly. He's chasing power like it's oxygen. "You're the only one who can reach him before he destroys himself." Jill sighs, visibly torn. "You think I haven't tried?" He won't listen. He is convinced that everyone, including me, is against him. Nikki settles in. After that, tell him who he was. Before the money, before the AI, before all of this madness. You're not just another business associate to him. You are my family. Jill is deeply affected by the word family. She swirls her coffee, staring into it like it holds answers. "And what if I can't reach him, Nikki? What if he's too far gone?" Nikki's reply is simple but chilling. "Then we do what we must." Victor's ultimate play. Victor, on the other hand, is not one to wait around for fate. When he sees a threat, he neutralizes it permanently. In his office at Newman Enterprises, he makes a discreet call to one of his longtime operatives. "Keep an eye on Kane Ashby," he orders. "Every whisper, every meeting, and every transaction. I need to know in advance if he goes over the line." Victor's motivation is control, not retaliation. Additionally, Kane has dared to challenge the Control King. Nikki walks into Victor's office later that night and finds him staring intently out the window. "You're shifting pieces once more, aren't you?" she gently teases. Victor makes a turn, his face obscured. This family and this city must be saved from themselves by someone. Nikki approaches him, resting a hand on his arm. "Just be careful, Victor. Kane's dangerous, but so is obsession." Victor gives a nod without responding. The next phase of his plan is already 5 steps ahead of him in his mind. Uneasy reunion between Jack and Jill the next day. Jill shows up at the Abbott mansion, where Jack greets her with cautious warmth. They haven't been on the same side of a conflict in years, but desperate times make odd allies. Jill says, "Jack, I think Victor might be right. Kane's been playing a long game and I let it happen." Jack simply nods, not giddy with pride. Then it's time to get it fixed. Together, they map out a strategy, merging resources, leveraging connections, and digging into Kane's operations. It feels like the past for a brief period of time, 2 business giants working toward the same objective. But a haunting question remains in Jill's mind. If they destroy Kane's empire, will they also destroy the man she once considered to be her family? Kane's counterattack. Kane learns of their alliance from across town. As he looks at the most recent reports on his tablet, his jaw tightens. He murmurs, "Jack and Jill. Again running up that hill." He immediately calls his AI strategist, a shadowy figure known only as Holden, a new player rumored to have his own vendetta against the Newmans. Kane says sternly, "It's time. Initiate Project Phoenix. Let's show them what evolution really looks like." Holden's voice crackles through the speaker. "Are you sure, sir? Once this starts, there's no turning back." Kane's eyes harden. "Exactly." The suspense of Nikki and Jill, additional Mariah stranger danger, and Phyllis's questioning. The Young and the Restless, Y&R, spoilers for Tuesday, October 7th show that Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, hears of an intriguing offer. Mariah Copeland, Cameron Grimes, is on thin ice, and Phyllis Summers, Michelle Stafford, is investigated. The gathering at Newman Ranch. Nikki Newman, played by Melody Thomas Scott, visits Jill at the Newman Ranch. Nikki is prepared to move forward with them as friends because they have unfinished business. This is because she believes that to defeat Nasty, all hands must be on deck. Ashby's, Billy Flynn, Kane. In case you missed it, Kane has been cast as a new character and returned to the show. A snarling, melancholy convict takes its place of the Australian charm. Some viewers need some time to adjust because Kane 2.0 has taken over the entire show. Be that as it may, She wants to join forces to defeat Kane's vile agenda to take over the entire town, from his choo-choo. Nikki's concern may fall on deaf ears, however. Jill is tight with Kane and always protects those she loves. Nikki and Jill wish to form an alliance. Kane, as previously stated, is not the same person, literally, and the characters are attempting to eliminate him by shooting him first. Jill hopes that Kane will get back to his best, but the rest of GC can't wait while Kane plans to ruin them. However, Jill's decision to partner with Nikki could be influenced by the fact that she has more issues than just Kane. Jill's other issue is her son Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, who always has a grudge against her. Fic get testy. Meanwhile, Nick Newman, Joshua Morrow, interrogates his ex, Phyllis, about what the heck she's doing collaborating with Kane. Nick delivers his usual warning about Kane being a bad guy and she would do well to remove herself from his orbit. While encouraging Nick to fight other battles, Phyllis accepts the advice and asserts that she is in control of everything. Sharon's world gets shattered at Crimson Lights. Tessa Porter, played by Kate Fairbanks, and Daniel Romalotti, played by Michael Graziardi, upset Sharon Newman, played by Sharon Case, when they announced that Mariah, their daughter, had vanished. What Daniel and Tessa discovered at the No-Tell Motel, where Mariah allegedly smothered an elderly coot to death, left them speechless. Did Daniel and Tessa discover evidence to support Mariah's claim that she killed the stranger? Michael Swan. Since the beginning of this bizarre plot, things seem to be going wrong, so maybe a drunken hallucination will do at this point. Since the protagonist has given up, what exactly is the point of this plot? Consequently, Tessa is now more concerned than ever about Mariah following the visit, and Daniel is conveniently nearby to console her. Please show us if you agree with the storyline's direction by raising your hand if you can see it from space. Be sure to catch up on everything happening with the young and the restless right now. Come back here often for the hottest Y&R updates, news, and spoilers. Get comfortable, and gain access to the best soap intel on the web. The suspense of Nikki and Jill, additional Mariah stranger danger, and Phyllis's questioning Genoa City is on fire once more on The Young and the Restless, Y&R, as the episode on Tuesday, October 7th delves deeply into long-standing rivalries, buried loyalties, and the kind of slow-burning tension that only this iconic soap can deliver. The mystery, manipulation, and moral crisis that could forever alter the town's power balance are all presented to viewers. The hour unfolds across three emotional fronts: a tense negotiation at the Newman Ranch, a dangerous unraveling surrounding Mariah Copeland's mental state, and a blistering confrontation that places Phyllis Summers squarely under the microscope. As the drama spreads like wildfire through Genoa City, old alliances are tested, and unexpected truths begin to claw their way into the light. The uneasy alliance of Nikki and Jill, a meeting of the Titans' uncertainty, quietly hangs in the air at the Newman Ranch, like a storm waiting to break. Nikki Newman, Melody Thomas Scott, has invited Jill Abbott, Jess Walton, over for what she calls a necessary conversation. But in Genoa City, necessary often means dangerous, and despite Nikki's cool demeanor, the tension brewing beneath her designer exterior is too much to handle. As the two legendary women face each other across the marble coffee table, it feels like decades of rivalry, grudges, and buried respect are colliding all at once. They have fought over men, money, and morality, but the current debate does not center on the past. It is about Kane Ashby, played by Billy Flynn, and the perilous empire that he seems to be building in the shadows, one brick at a time. Everyone who thought they knew Kane has been shocked by his transformation ever since his shocking return. Fans no longer adore the charming, slightly roguish Australian. He has been replaced by a stern, menacing figure who seems determined to exact revenge. Kane is said to have been working undercover, influencing financial networks and extorting half of Genoa City's elite, according to rumors. Nikki knows what's coming. She's seen men like Kane before. She is prepared to prevent Victor's empire from being destroyed. Nikki says with firmness, her voice tinged with steely determination, "We need to stop him before he takes us all down with him." However, Jill is slower to unite. Her loyalty to Kane runs deep, complicated by years of family connection and guilt. To Jill, Kane isn't just a rogue, he's a broken man trying to rebuild his place in the world. "You're asking me to turn on someone I consider family," Jill counters, her tone both defiant and weary. One of the most memorable parts of the episode is this witty, nuanced, and empathetic exchange. Like chess masters who are aware that the stakes are much higher than the next move, two matriarchs who have both experienced heartbreak and manipulation stare each other down. Nonetheless, Nikki is not relenting. When Kane starts to sever ties, "Do you think loyalty will save you?" she warns. "He has transformed, Jill. You are aware of it as well as I am." Jill's face is captured by the camera as she is torn between her maternal instinct and strategic survival. For the first time, she appears unsure of whether her instincts or her heart will guide her in the right direction. The Convict King of Chaos, the return of Kane 2.0. Kane Ashby's recast has sent shockwaves through the fandom, and his reintroduction is everything fans expected, and more. The easy smile and soft charm are gone. What remains is a man sculpted by bitterness and survival. It has the impression that his every move is planned, even predatory, as if he is silently calculating which pawn to sacrifice next. In private, Kane's conversations drip with menace. His goal is clear: dismantle the existing power structure of Genoa City, starting with the Newmans and Abbotts, and rebuild it in his image. Rumor has it he's working from a hidden base of operations, his Choo-Choo, as some insiders jokingly call it, a nod to his once honest business ventures now twisted into something much darker. Kane 2.0's presence has everyone on edge. Lily Winters, Crystal Khalil, keeps her distance, Billy Abbott, Jason Thompson, is simmering with resentment, and now even Nikki is recruiting allies to counter his growing influence. While providing Billy Flynn with a canvas on which to display a more sinister side to a character who was once loved, the transformation storyline plays brilliantly with soap opera tropes such as loyalty being tested by love and redemption becoming revenge. Family ties, Jill's dilemma and Billy's shadow. Jill's hesitation about joining Nikki's crusade doesn't just come from her loyalty to Kane, it's also tied to the chaos surrounding her son, Billy Abbott. Billy's reckless behavior and bruised ego have the potential to undo everything Jill has worked for once more. Billy's been restless, spiraling after his latest professional setback, and now he's aligning himself with dangerous company. Jill sees shades of Kane in him, that same impulsive drive, that dangerous need for validation. Watching two of the men she loves most destroy themselves while she stands in the crossfire is a mother's worst nightmare. When Nikki accuses her of letting sentiment cloud her judgment, Jill bristles. "Don't lecture me about loyalty," she snaps. "You don't get to talk about moral clarity because you've been married to Victor more times than I can count." The verbal sparring between these two women is electric, classic Y&R. Beneath the words lies a deep well of respect, but also an understanding that neither will hesitate to strike if cornered. The camera follows Jill as she leaves the ranch into the night, unable to read her expression. Is she walking away from Nikki's alliance, or buying time to craft a move of her own? Phyllis interrogated, trouble brewing in Crimson Heat. Phyllis Summers, played by Michelle Stafford, faces yet another grilling from her ex-boyfriend Nick Newman, played by Joshua Morrow, across the town. Their chemistry, as always, sparks the screen to life. Nick confronts Phyllis at the Grand Phoenix, demanding to know why she's been meeting with Kane behind closed doors. "Don't tell me it's just business," he warns, his jaw tight. "That man's poison, and you know it." Phyllis, ever the master of emotional misdirection, leans back with a sly smile. "Nick, you've spent half your life trying to save people who don't want saving. Maybe it's time you focused on someone else for a change." But Nick isn't buying it. He accuses her of getting in over her head again and warns that Kane's schemes will drag her down. Their passionate conversation discusses regret, years of unresolved emotion, and the kind of twisted affection that never completely dies. Naturally, Phyllis maintains her control. "I don't take orders from anyone, not Victor, not Kane, and certainly not you," she says, her eyes flashing with defiance. Yet as Nick storms out, that flicker of doubt crosses her face, a subtle but powerful sign that maybe, just maybe, she's wading into deeper waters than she realizes. Is Phyllis using Kane for her own purposes, or has the master manipulator become a pawn in someone else's game? This leaves the audience with the question: Mariah's meltdown, stranger danger returns. A completely different storm is brewing at Crimson Lights. Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, is having a quiet time when Kate Fairbanks' Tessa Porter and Michael Graziadi's Daniel Romalotti show up. Sharon hears their news like a thunderclap. Mariah has vanished once more, and this time the situation may be much more dire than anyone anticipated. According to Tessa and Daniel, their search led them to a run-down motel outside of Genoa City, the kind of place that doesn't ask questions and doesn't give refunds. There, they uncovered traces suggesting that Mariah had a violent encounter. The kicker: they believe Mariah may have been involved in the death of a mysterious man known only as the Stranger, Michael Swan. The Stranger storyline has been one of Y&R's most polarizing subplots in recent months, a psychological mystery tinged with crime and hallucination. The erratic behavior, cryptic messages, and emotional distance of Mariah all point to deeper trauma. However, the discovery of a possible murder raises the stakes even higher. As Sharon listens in shock, her protective instincts go into overdrive. She insists, her voice shaking, "No. Mariah couldn't hurt anyone, not like that." But Tessa's eyes tell a different story, one of fear and heartbreak. "We found her things, Sharon," she whispers. "Her phone, her jacket, and blood." Daniel steps in, playing the rational counterpoint. "We don't know everything yet. But if Mariah's on the run, she needs help, not judgment." This storyline pulls at the emotional core of Y&R: mothers fighting for their children, lovers trying to understand the people they thought they knew, and the haunting question of how far love can stretch before it breaks. As the episode progresses, Sharon's world begins to unravel. Her calm facade cracks, revealing the terrified mother beneath. It's almost impossible to bear the thought of Mariah, her once stable daughter, getting caught up in a nightmare of violence and confusion. Tessa, on the other hand, relies on Daniel for support. The chemistry between them doesn't go unnoticed by viewers, and the writers seem to be planting seeds for a potential emotional triangle that could shake things up even further. The domino effect: connections, clues, and consequences. As the episode weaves between these storylines, subtle threads begin to connect the chaos. Kane's shadowy dealings, Phyllis's risky alliance, and Mariah's downward spiral all seem to be orbiting the same unseen force, a conspiracy that might be larger than any single player realizes. Could the Stranger's death be linked to Kane's network? Is Phyllis unknowingly helping him cover his tracks? And is Mariah's disappearance connected to the same criminal web Nikki and Jill are now fighting against? Soap operas thrive on slow reveals, and this episode masterfully builds that tension. Every scene feels like a puzzle piece being laid down, sometimes perfectly, sometimes just askew enough to make the audience question everything.